pals, welcome back to my channel. I hope that you're doing so well today. We're going to be diving into something that is almost a little, it's not embarrassing, but it's embarrassing to think about. I am a notoriously high rater. And in 2024, I have somehow managed to rank 44 books as 5-star reads on my Goodreads. Some of those may not be true 5-star reads because, you know, you can't do half stars on Goodreads. So they might be like 4.5, 4.75 rounded up, but still 44 books rated at 5 stars is kind of insane. I read 110 books this year. So that's like almost 50% of the books that I read. I have loaded all of those books onto my handy dandy iPad right here, and we're going to go through and we're going to rank them based on 4 different tiers. The top tier is going to be what dreams are made of, you know, like the Lizzie McGuire, hey now, this is what dreams, this is gonna be what dreams are made of. These are gonna be like my over 5-star books, like my favorite books of the year, 6-star books. Second category, we have you know what, hell yeah, which is one of my favorite comments that people leave on TikToks. You know what, hell yeah, that's gonna be something that stands on business as a 5-star book. Like, I did enjoy it. It's not like one of my favorite elite employee books of the year, but they are standing as a 5-star book for me still. The third tier is going to be demoted to 4 stars. These are going to be books that I did enjoy at the time. I still would enjoy and recommend now, but I don't feel like they're 5-star reads anymore. And then also we're going to go with the last category of I remember nothing, which is very embarrassing. If you're someone who reads a lot of books like I do, there are some books that I've read this year that I could not even tell you the basic premise of it. I couldn't tell you like what the big plot reveals are in it. I could only tell you like what genre the book is in and maybe a couple of details, which is so embarrassing that I put books as 5-star reads that I'm looking at this list and I know that I don't remember a single thing about them. It's so horrible. We're just gonna start kind of willy-nilly here. Let's start actually with Powerless by Lauren Roberts. This book is the first book in the Powerless trilogy by her, and this was actually a reread. So I read this the first time, gave it 5 stars. I read it the second time, anticipating Reckless, which, don't even get me started. That was such a letdown. I enjoyed Powerless the second time around, and I'm gonna say that it stands on business to me as a 5-star read. So hell yeah, it gets to stay as a 5-star read. I'm not going to demote it. I'm not actually going to demote these in my Goodreads because that would take so much time if I actually went through and like changed the ratings and like changed my reviews, because I do stand by what I said in those reviews at the time. Past Jessica really felt that way. Just today, she just doesn't remember that. I have a lot of recency bias when it comes to reading. The next book that we're gonna do is Galatea by Madeline Miller. This is a super short story. It's like literally 50 pages long. I found that this book is so beautifully and whimsically and thoughtfully written. This story is about a statue that a man carved becoming a woman, and she is named Galatea. So she gets brought to life by one of the goddesses. And so this is like a real story in Greek mythology. She also wrote the books Circe or Circe and also The Song of Achilles, which are very highly acclaimed on Book Talk. They're like literary fiction works. And I sadly did have to DNF both Song of Achilles and Circe. I will definitely circle back at some point, but that point is not probably in the next year. But I did love this short story. It's only like 50 pages long, and it was, like I said, so thoughtfully and whimsically written. This stands as a 5-star read. I'm not going to put it in front of Powerless just because it is such a short story and not a fully fleshed out novel with plots and, you know, but it is a complete story within itself. The next book that I'm going to pick is going to be Not for the Faint of Heart by Lex Croucher. This author wrote Gwen and Art Are Not in Love, and they also wrote Trouble, and I love everything that Lex puts out. It's a Robin Hood found family-esque sapphic romance, if that tells you anything. Really did enjoy it. I think that it stands as a 5-star read for me, but like teetering. I would really love to put it as a 4.5 star. I think 4 is too low, but the fact that we can't do the half star really messes me up. Let's go with Caraval, however you say it. This is the book by Stephanie Garber. It is the first book in the Caraval series, and this book has such a unique magic system. This is about two sisters that write letters to this game master named Legend, and he is the master magician over Caraval, and at the end of it, whoever wins Caraval gets to have one wish. And so it follows the sisters and the journey that they take through Caraval. So I loved Caraval, and I'm gonna put that straight into What Dreams Are Made Of, because that whole universe that Stephanie Garber created is such a beautifully written fairy tale fantasy. It was so much fun. I'm going to put Legendary and Finale, both of her other books, in the you know what, hell yeah, because those stand up as 5-star reads for me. The next one that I'm going to look at here will be The Doll's House. I believe this one is by Lisa Unger, but do not let me lie because I cannot see the author. I can only see the name of the book. It's called The Doll's House. It was a short story, and I listened to it for an arc through NetGalley. I rated it 5 stars at the time. I do remember parts of it, but it teeters between I remember nothing and demoted to 4 stars. So that's a very big jump between I remember nothing and 4 stars, but there's like a reason why I rated it 5 stars, but I cannot even tell you what it is. And I don't want to cheat. Like, I don't want to go look back at my Goodreads because that will refresh my memory too much. I want this to be so realistic. The other worst thing about this is that I think that I read The Doll's House like 2 months ago. I think it was so recent. Like, I'm pretty sure that it was like in September or October, but I'm thinking October, but that could also be wrong because I just don't have a great memory. So I'm just gonna keep her in I Remember Nothing so respectfully. I had to have loved it then, but I honestly, when I was like going through the list on my Goodreads of my read 5-star books yesterday to save all of these, I literally was so shocked by some of the books that made it to 5 stars. And then I was like looking for other books that I thought were gonna be 5-star, but I must have rated it 4. I don't really know where my allegiance lies, honestly. And I think that I am the worst person to believe for book ratings because you cannot trust my Goodreads. Because if you ask me about any of them, I may not know anything about them. Let's move on to the next book that's just right here at the front. Electric Idol by Katee Robert. Girl. That is the second book in the Dark Olympus series by her. The first one follows Persephone and Hades, and this one follows Psyche and Eros. I love Greek mythology. That is just something that y'all will come to know about me, is that I love Greek mythology so much. I love retellings. I love everything about Greek mythology. So this is like an urban retelling of those Greek mythology stories. Like, they have phones, they have drama outlet channels, they have like tabloid magazines. I loved this one, and I'm going to say you know what, hell yeah, and I'm actually gonna put it right there because it's spicy. Like, if you're looking for a spicy romance, you should read some Katee Robert because she has a ton of books, and I feel like her Dark Olympus series just gets more smutty as it goes along. So if that's something that you're looking for, definitely check out that series by her. Let's pick up another book here. Let's go with First Light Wins. First Light Wins is a book that is a mystery thriller, and it is very twisty and turny. I do remember the plot. I know what happens in it. However, at this time, I don't think that I can call it a 5-star read anymore, just because it's not something that I ever find myself recommending to other people. I feel like my 5-star reads should be books that I'm going to actually tell other people, go pick this up. You need to go out and get it expeditiously. That's not something that I'm saying about First Light Wins. There are other mystery books that I have read that I would tell people to read over this. So not that it wasn't good, I read it for a book club, but I did really enjoy it, and I thought the ending was very fun. Next, let's go with one of my favorite romance reads from this year. That's gonna be King of Wrath by Anna Huang. That's the first book in her Kings of Sin series. This book is about billionaires. This series are billionaire romances, billionaire romances, billionaire romances. What more can I say? Anna Huang knows how to write a billionaire romance that is going to literally have me kicking my feet. I'm giggling, I'm screaming, I'm like texting my friends in my group chat photos of like a page and be like, you have to read this. That's how I feel about Anna Huang, any of her books, but especially I love the Kings of Sin series way more than her Twisted series. King of Wrath, that's going to be a romance book, billionaire romance, and it is like a forced arranged marriage, forced proximity, you know, all those tropes that are going to get the book talk girlies riding at dawn. Another book that is going to go high up in my What Dreams Are Made Of category is going to be One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This book knocked my socks off. This series, it's a duology, it's completed, knocked my freaking socks off, dude. I'll go ahead and put Two Twisted Crowns on here. They're both equally amazing. I love the way that the second book wrapped everything up. I love the way that the first book was so descriptive in a way that really put you into it. I love the feeling that these YA romantasy books just put me back into a time when I was a teenager and just like wanting and yearning for male attention in a way that was probably honestly clinical, but I eat them up. Next, let's do Psyche and Eros. I read this after Electric Idol, loved it, but I don't think it's a 5-star book for me, but it is fun. It's another Greek mythology retelling. I would call it historical fiction, even though obviously it's not. I don't know if Greek mythology normally falls into historical fiction, but that's like that's the air of aura that it gives. Next up, let's do That's Not My Name by Megan Lally. This is going to be one of my top thriller mystery books that I've read ever. I started reading it at like 10 o'clock at night. I could not physically put it down. It was a weeknight. I had to go to work the next day. I didn't go to sleep until 2 a.m. I read the whole book in that span of time. This one was so fast paced that I didn't even have time to think about what could happen. You know, it was just so good. I'm just gonna go ahead and put No Place to Hide, or No Place Left to Hide by Megan Lally. I'm gonna put that up in my solid 5-star. I don't think that it's as good as the first book that she had, which they're not a series, they're just both by her, so they have similar like covers. It's very similar pacing, like so fast paced like the first book. Megan Lally knows how to write a thriller book. Next, let's grab My Dark Vanessa. This book is a literary fiction book about a girl who was groomed by her teacher, and it's split timeline. So it shows her as a teen and while this abuse was happening, and then it shows her as an adult, like 10 years-ish, or maybe even a little bit more than that, after graduating from school. Shows how that grooming really affected her life, and some like really intense and traumatic things happen in the book, like in her current life. So it kind of deals with the fallout of that. And I think it's a very good book if you're looking to get into literary fiction, but you do have to be aware that there are some very upsetting things in this book. So I would definitely read the triggers before picking it up, but it was a very well written book. And I think that it is definitely a solid 5-star read, like towards the front of 5 stars. I'm gonna put this one a little further back than that. Okay, I still can't believe how many books I have on this thing. Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. It slayed, which is just such a funny word to use considering this is a dark romance book about serial killers. Very slow burn, lots of yearning, years of yearning actually. I think that if you like dark comedy, dark romance, this kind of very well fuses the two in a way that I hadn't read before. I haven't really dabbled into a lot of dark romance. I found that I don't like a lot of it, but I think that the comedic relief in Butcher and Blackbird made it to where I felt like, yeah, I'm into this. I think that a lot of people have enjoyed it just because of how funny it is. So I'm going to put it in You Know What, Hell Yeah. And it's hard really to rate these between each other, or like to pick where to put it. These top 3 books are just such different vibes from each other. Like they're all equally towards the front of that 5-star, but they're just so different from each other. My ears are out, hair is going behind the ears, so you know that it's getting really serious. And I'm gearing up for battle here with the Poppy War, because this book by Huang, I am telling you that the Poppy War, that goes hard. I'm putting it into What Dreams Are Made Of. It's going straight up there. And I'm gonna put it in between the Shepherd King duology, because the Poppy War is about a girl who grew up in extreme poverty, and she tests into the most elite academy. The war happens, in this book, and it is gruesome. It does not shy away from that. Like, this is the first real fantasy book that I've read instead of romantasy. Have not picked up the other two books only because I know that they're so long and they're heavy. Like, it takes a lot out of you to read something that's so sinister. But I will be finishing that series in 2025. That is one of my goals. Next, let's do Not Open by Kiersten Modglin. This book is a short story, like a novella, and it is a mystery thriller. I'll be really honest with you. I don't remember what this is about. I do remember listening to it as an audiobook and my hands were on the steering wheel. They were white knuckle grip. That's how freaked out I was when I was stressed out listening to this. However, I cannot recall the plot. That's like so sad actually, because I remember feeling so distraught reading it. Okay, moving on. Let's move on to another Kiersten Modglin book that I do remember. I do remember this one, The Hidden by Kiersten Modglin. This one's gonna go right here behind No Place Else to Hide. This one is another thriller mystery book by Kiersten Modglin. That's pretty much, I think, all she writes. And I do remember what happens in this one. So this one is about a girl who gets I cannot even explain it to you because I will give away the whole plot. So I actually can't do that for reasons of destroying the plot for you. Not because I can't remember it, because I do promise that I remember this book. And I know that that's hard to believe at this time. Given that I have 2 books on my 2024 5-star ratings that I can't remember anything about, I swear I do remember. Next, let's move on to Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I am an Ali Hazelwood apologist in the biggest way possible. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to demote it. Solidly would give it a 4.5 stars because it was my favorite Ali Hazelwood book until I read the other 2 Ali Hazelwood books on this list. So I'm demoting it down. Her books before this were all about like science-y romances, and they all followed the same beats. Like, there was like the same book written over and over again. So I started to not love it, but after I read Check and Mate, which I'm gonna go ahead and rate Check and Mate and put it at the top of You Know What Hell Yeah, because that's a YA romance book that I never thought I would get behind about chess. Do I know a single dang thing about chess? No! I was sat. I could not stop reading. I love Check and Mate, so that's gonna stay at the top of You Know What Hell Yeah as a 5-star read. And you know what? We'll go ahead and do her other book that's on this list, Not in Love. That's going into What Dreams Are Made Of. It follows 2 characters that have very complex backstories that have shaped the way that they communicate and how they move forward in relationships in a way that is like so beautifully done that I feel like makes them more complete characters. Love it. Love Ali Hazelwood. Would never say a bad thing about her. Let's go with Where Sleeping Girls Lie, YA mystery thriller book. It's dark academia. It is about a girl who gets sent to live in a boarding school when she's been homeschooled her entire life. Her roommate shows her around and she's really getting on well with her roommate. And the next day after she gets there, her roommate goes missing. And she doesn't know who to trust. No one's really helping her try to find her roommate. There are so many different people that have ulterior motives for either wanting the roommate gone or for maybe trying to help our main character find her. It's just really fun. It's navigating ultra rich elite dark academia boarding school, something that I've obviously never experienced in my entire life. I'm gonna keep it as a 5-star read, but I'm gonna put it towards the end. It was a book that I felt like could have been way shorter. Let's move on to What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. This is the second book that I've read by them, and it is a novella that is a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher by Edgar Allan Poe, but it puts a spin on it I did not see coming at all. So smartly and wittily written. It was just like done so well and I loved it. I don't read a lot of horror books because I have really bad nightmares. So this wasn't like horror, like capital letters, that I wanted to die after I read it and like bleach my brain, but it was still like, it was kooky and quirky enough to make me feel spooked. I did really enjoy it. It was a quick read because it was so short. I'm gonna put it into You Know What Hell Yeah because it's a solid 5-star novella for me. and I'll put it in the middle because it's kind of where it falls for me. So we can go ahead and do the other T. Kingfisher book on this list, which is A Sorceress Comes to Call, which I also got as a NetGalley arc. And this one is a retelling of The Goose Girl, which is like a Brothers Grimm. And I'm going to put it at, you know what, hell yeah, like towards the very front, because there were liberties that were taken in this book that I was like, oh, the plot and the idea behind it is actually so crazy. Okay, we can do, let's do Savor It. I think this book is by Tara DeWitt, and it is a fluffy romance book. Big city girl meets small town boy. She moves to a small town and she's like cooking him food and they're like on a farm, and it's a very fun romance book. And I'm going to put it, actually, I liked it, but I'm gonna demote it to 4 stars. Next, we'll go ahead and do both of these Fourth Wing graphic audios. How I feel about Fourth Wing itself, apart from the graphic audio, is different than how I feel about Fourth Wing graphic audio, because the book itself I think was like a solid 4.5 stars. I rounded it up to 5 last year, so I really enjoyed that. The graphic audio itself is so well done. The actors in it are amazing, and they just breathe a whole new life into the Fourth Wing story that made me so excited. Like, I cannot wait to listen to the Iron Flame graphic audio, because it's going to like rock my shit in a real way. So I'm gonna put both of these in, you know what, hell yeah. Oh, and if you don't know what Fourth Wing is about, it is about a girl who has trained her whole life to be a scribe, like a record keeper, for this warlike dystopian world that they're living in. And her mother forces her to go into the Riders Quadrant, which are the people that ride dragons. They're the fighters that ride dragons, and lots of them die just in the training to become a rider. It just follows her through this military school that she goes to, and it's a romantasy, lots of smut, lots of thinking about how hot the main male character is. You know, it's all that kind of stuff, and it was very fun. Next up, we have Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth, and I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you, I remember nothing. I think that one of the characters are named Jessica. We'll go ahead and pull Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. I read this while I was on vacation back in the end of September, and it rocked me. This book is about a girl who is a witch who has to contact one of the 7 deadly sin demons. He's like a demon prince of the underworld, in order to solve a mystery that she is trying to uncover the truth about. And of course, there's some enemies to lovers. I think that it is what dreams are made of. And we'll go ahead and put Kingdom of the Cursed on board as well. I did notice when I was going through my Goodreads to find my 5-star books, I was kind of surprised that I put this as a 5-star book. And I even said it's better than the first one. But now I don't feel that way anymore. Like, I think that the first book really holds up. I did like the second one a lot, and it just continues on with the story from the first book. So I'm gonna put it towards the front of, you know what, hell yeah, because it stood on business. The problem with my reviews on Goodreads is that I tend to write them pretty quickly after I've read the book, so there's a lot of recency bias that goes into my ratings. Okay, we're really dwindling down here. Funny Story by Emily Henry. This is a rom-com book. It is about a girl who is left at the altar, and the guy who her ex-fiance left her for his ex-boyfriend. I feel like there's a way better way that I could have explained that. The main female character has to find a place to live, and so she moves in with the ex-fiance's new girlfriend's ex-boyfriend. There's some forced proximity, and he gives very much Nick Miller from New Girl vibes, a bit more charismatic and outgoing than Nick Miller. Overall, loved this book. Gotta change my battery, hold on. Okay, we're back. So glad that I noticed my battery was literally on like the exhausted symbol. So where was I? Oh, Funny Story. Loved it. Going to put it in, you know what, hell yeah. And I'm going to put it right behind A Sorceress Comes to Call. Next up, we're going to do Broken Luck. This is a book by Shannon Morris, who is an independent author on TikTok. And she reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to read her book. I read it. I rated it 5 stars. I was being very generous when I rated it 5 stars. I remember this book. I remember everything that happened in the book because the book is pretty traumatic. It is a pregnancy trope. The pregnancy itself, very traumatic birth story. And there's just a lot of chaos that happens behind the scenes with like the friend group. It's very much in the style of Icebreaker, where it's a large amount of friends and they all kind of come together in a found family way. I wanted to give her a good review, and I did, but I think now I would demote it definitely down to 4 stars, teetering 3.5 stars, because I think the premise of the book itself was very good, but the actual substance of the book, like the writing, there were errors in it that needed really to be fixed. Let's go with the 2 books that I have on here by Olivia Blake. The first one is Januaries, which is a collection of short stories, and I'm pretty sure it says about love, magic, and betrayal. Those 3 words can describe every single short story. The book is so funny. So many of the stories have such a huge comedy element to it that makes it feel so fantastical. Overall, really very much enjoyed Olivia Blake's Januaries. I think that everyone should read it. There are some stories on there that aren't as strong as others, but I think that they average out truly to be a 5-star book, and I'm going to put them really pretty far up, like right there. And I'll go ahead and do her other book that I have on here, Alone with You in the Ether. This is a romance book, not like a fluffy rom-com. It's more of a literary fiction. It follows 2 very complex individuals. They just both see the world differently, and they come together to see the world differently, and it's just a very beautiful story. So I enjoyed it. I really wanted to feel like love and heartbreak. It's a 5-star read still for me, and I'm gonna put it right about there. Seems nice. Next up, we're gonna do Not Another Love Song, I'm pretty sure, by Julie Soto. And I remember eating this up. Like, I read through it on my Kindle. I was like tapping next page, next page, next page. I was reading it so fast, but I don't feel that same strong sentiment that I felt about it before. And so for that reason, I'm going to put it demoted to 4 stars, but realistically 4.5. Okay, Loud by Drew Afwalo. This is a memoir autobiography about her life. So I loved this. I think that it's a perfect gift or book for any woman to read, and it stands on business. You know what? Hell yeah, it's a 5-star read, and I'm gonna put it right about there. Okay, so I accidentally put Psyche and Eros on here twice. I'm just now noticing. I'm just gonna go ahead and put that right there so I don't get confused. Keep Me. This is by Sarah Kate, the same person that wrote the Praise series. Keep Me, not quite as gripping to me as Praise, and I really don't know if it should be a 5-star book for me at this time. I literally just read this, I think in the month of December. I'm just going to demote it down to 4 stars. The Stranger at the Wedding. This book, I remember nothing. I can tell you it's a mystery thriller, and there was a stranger, where? At her wedding. See, what's interesting here that I've noticed is that all of these books that I've rated a 5-star that were mystery thriller are ones that I'm not remembering. These next 3 all-star elite employees of my reading experience of this year. Fairy Tale by Stephen King is going into What Dreams Are Made Of. So this book is so fun. It follows a teenage boy who helps his neighbor who gets hurt in front of his house. This neighbor is like the old man on the block with the creepy house that no one ever wants to talk to him. They're all scared of him. And he goes and he sees that he's hurt and he helps him. And the old man goes into the hospital and he leaves Charlie his key so that he can help take care of his dog. And Charlie develops a relationship with the old man and he helps around the house. And come to find out, the old man does indeed have a portal to another world at his house, which is not a thing in this. Like, this is not like a supernatural book or world. It would be like if someone in our world, you go out into their shed, guess what? There's a portal to a fairy tale world underneath. And the fairy tale world is full of like Grimm Brothers fairy tales. And towards like the last quarter of the book is when it starts getting like more horror. Like, things are happening that are definitely like gory and terrible. But overall, I would not categorize this as a super scary book. The Outsider by Stephen King was the second book that I read by him, and it was another great book, and I'm gonna put it in You Know What, Hell Yeah at the front. It was a little scarier than Fairy Tale, so that was harder for me because it actually did give me nightmares, but it was like worth it because it was such an interesting plot and Stephen King's writing in it was like fresh. Like it just felt so nice. I'm actually about to start the next book in that Stephen King series. And the last book I have to rate is going to be my top book of the entire year, The Will of the Many by James Ellington. That is what dreams are made of, and I remember everything. So the premise of this book is kind of complicated to describe, but basically the will of the many is literally people's soul and like their will to live. The people who are at the bottom of the hierarchy are giving their will up to the people who are in higher positions of power. Their will is used to like move all the transportation. It's used to power like anything that's electrical. It's used for everyday things that we take for granted. It's people's literal will to live. And it follows a boy who is the orphan prince of a kingdom that was destroyed by the Republic, that is the ruler over everything. And he gets put into the academic military school that is elite, and they don't know who he is, they don't know his backstory, but they know something is not quite right and that he does not seem like an orphan boy, like a regular orphan boy. He knows too much. He infiltrates. And that's really all I can say. And it's such a crazy book. I want to reread it like so quickly, but I need to give it time to set in my brain because it was just that good. So here are my top 2024 5-star reads. Some of them are going to be completely wiped from my memory, like Men in Black. They took that little thing that went shh. I remember nothing about those. Some of them I decided they should have been 4-star. A lot of them stood up. Like a majority of these books that I rated high stand up. They are, you know what, hell yeah, these are 5-star reads. And then my top books, What Dreams Are Made Of. There's nothing more I can say. Thank you for bearing with my brain as I can't remember some of my 5-star rated books. That's so embarrassing. I love you guys and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.